Hello and welcome to this roundtable discussion from Nutra Ingredients. Now, randomized clinical trials, three little words, but they have a huge impact on the current health claims situation in Europe. I'm Stephen Daniels, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Dr. Volker Schellman and Bas van Buitenen from DSM Nutritional Products. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen. Now, randomized clinical trials, if we can start with you, Volker. How does this sit within the health claim situation, and how does it compare to the totality of the evidence?
Randomized clinical trials are a key element in the documentation of benefits in the pharmaceutical world. And they are also used by EFSA as the key evidence to justify certain claims. We, of course, very much support the EFSA's mandate to really substantiate the claims which are made for finished products and ingredients. But it's essential to look at the total evidence, not only the randomized clinical trials, but all the evidence which plays a role in the assessment.
Yeah, because obviously EFSA has said we want randomized clinical trials in a healthy population. It's all black and white, but then there's this bit of grey in the middle of what is a healthy population.
Yes.
How does an industry or a company like DSM interpret that?
Yeah, if you take an example, joint health. If you want to start the joint health benefits of a food product or a food ingredient, you need to start with a healthy population and document, for example, that an ingredient or a product maintains healthy joints over a certain period of time. That is very different compared to the pharma environment, where you start from an unhealthy population having arthritis, and then you monitor over time how the interaction is with a certain drug with that unhealthy people, and you see the benefit over time versus placebo. If you start from a healthy population without any arthritis problems, and then you need to monitor over time that this study group has the benefit of developing less arthritis or something like that.
Compared to placebo?
Compared to placebo, of course. And such a study is for relatively weak acting compounds. Nutrients cannot act like drugs, and it's never the intention that they act like that.
Yep.
You want to see a benefit of a weakly active nutrient over a certain period of time to show the benefit in joint health. This is of course, a very, very big challenge to document these benefits in such a trial.
Yeah, and they're extremely costly, which brings me onto you, Baz, because ultimately, you know, this over-reliance on randomized clinical trials will affect the bottom line with many companies, and just from an economic point of view, and innovation.
Absolutely, it will. Because I think the investment that is required to now be able to fully substantiate a claim according to the criteria that are being defined is larger than it was before. Because the path to market is becoming very long. I mean, we start with preclinical kind of trials, then you start with your first intervention kind of trials, and certainly RCTs have a role to play in that whole build-up. The question is, at which point in time do you allow entry into the market? Do you allow the claim to be made? If you push that further and further back in time, it will absolutely affect the economics of any decision that you make at the early stages of such a process in, am I going to pursue this investment in innovation or not? And it cannot be that those decisions will all be the same as they were before. They will be different, and that will harm innovation.
And do you think that's a discussion that's being had, or is that something that's being overlooked?
I think it's a discussion that people are aware of, but I think the emphasis is much more today on trying to take out those claims which are in the market today and which didn't deserve to be there or didn't deserve to be there yet. But I think in that process we risk taking out a number of claims also which do deserve to get there sooner or later. But if we make it too late, they might never get there.
And in terms of innovation, a lot of the innovators in every market are the small and medium-sized companies.
Yes, very true, and they're very important for innovation because we find that small and medium-sized enterprises are usually, certainly at, let's say, the consumer marketing interface, those who are more willing to try out things and to innovate because I think larger companies tend to rely more on the strength of their brands. And so for us as an ingredient supplier who will then take innovation to let's say, food manufacturers, it is very often smaller companies that take up our innovations first and will then start to build a market and awareness around that. And the large companies, of course, have their own developments, but they also will work with other people's ingredients, but they will usually only do so when there's already a certain awareness around that product. And if those small and medium size enterprises are not around to build that, I think that pathway will become more difficult for us.
This is a clear example of how the science and ultimately the economic bottom line are intricately linked.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us today, Baz, Volker. This was Stephen Daniels for Nutra Ingredients.